Hello, a very, very warm welcome to my YouTube this evening. We're taking a look at the de Havilland Mosquitoes, and the reason we're at Bolt Head is that the 406 Royal Canadian Squadron were based at RAF Winkley, but they used RAF Bolt Head as a forward base to refuel, rearm before they attacked targets in northern France. Now, I'd received an account of a Mosquito landing at RAF Bolt Head, and then it veered off the runway and went straight through the hedge at this point where we're standing looking out towards the west at Soar, where the Wartime northeast southwest runway was. Now, it's likely that it was a Canadian 406 Squadron Mosquito that was attempting to land at RAF Bolt Head, and they were actually based at RAF Winkley, but they used to fly into RAF Bolt Head to refuel before they went across the channel to northern France. Now, this got me thinking about the life of the Mosquito during the Second World War, but more interestingly, I wanted to take a look at the post-war activities of the de Havilland Mosquito, what they got up to, where they went, and who they flew with. Many of them were flown out to fly with the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and from there some of them then ended up going to Canada and flying with Spartan Air Services Limited, mapping the whole of northern Canada. It's quite an interesting story, and I'm going to do it in two parts. So the part one will be here this evening, and then part two I'll follow up and take a further look at the Mosquitoes that ended up in Canada. So the usual story: make a cup of tea, find a plate of biscuits and a comfy armchair, have a sit back and enjoy the film. I'll see you in a while. The Mosquito was truly a remarkable aircraft for its time. Not only was it made largely of wood, but it was designed as an unarmed bomber, depending on its superior speed to escape enemy fighters, and it was nicknamed the Wooden Wonder. On the 12th of March 1945, the last bomber variant of the Mosquito, the B-35, made its first test flight. The war had ended before it could be used operationally, but it entered service with the post-war Royal Air Force and served as a bomber until the beginning of 1954. Some Mosquito B-35s were converted for other duties, including target towing, and in this role they continued in service until 1963. 105 Squadron introduced Mosquitoes into service in May 1942 as daylight bombers. However, as the RAF's night bomber offensive grew, they were used with the Pathfinder Force and other roles within Bomber Command. The Mosquito also proved a remarkable versatile aircraft on other roles. It was a great success as a night fighter and an intruder as well as an anti-shipping strike aircraft. Both the Royal Air Force and the United States Army Air Force used Mosquitoes for photographic reconnaissance duties. Its tremendous versatility, the aircraft demonstrated perhaps more than any other at the time how innovative product design methods and the use of different materials can produce a high-performance, world-beating aircraft. We're now going to listen to an interview with Group Captain Rain Schultz, who served with 410 Squadron during the Second World War, and in particular an incident that happened on the 10th of February 1944. Group Captain Schultz, DFC and Bar, with his navigator Vernon Williams.
What's your finest memory from your entire aviation career?
Surviving the trip on the 10th of February 1944. And we caught up to it about 60, 70 miles out over the North Sea, the cloud, and it was a German, and he was going home flat out. And it was a different model. It was either a 388 Junkers 88 or a 188. And my navigator, who was a real enthusiast on information like this, after we shot it, and it was in flames and going down, he said, let's get in closer so I can give more information to the intelligence people when we get on the ground. That was the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. I moved on in, and as it was getting close, and the airplane was completely in flames, but the mid-upper gunner was still in his turret on this airplane, and I saw the turret moving around to come bear on me, and I broke as hard as I could to the left, and he started at about 6 inches from one wingtip and finished up 6 inches from the other wingtip, put 30-some rounds of 13 millimeter into my airplane, 2 or 3 through the cockpit. My navigator had perspex into his face and things, and one went, and we sat side by side. One of the bullets went right through between the two of us, amongst other things. Well, both engines were badly shot up. One of them, the piston was shot right out of it on the right-hand engine, and I was going to crash land. The radio was still working at the big bomber crash strip in Norfolk, and they said, we can't take you because the air is littered with bombers coming back from a raid. So we tried, and we went on to Bradwell Bay, which was about another 50, 60 miles with this airplane in this shape. And we landed, and the one thing that was most interesting on that, when I went to put on the brakes, there weren't any brakes. One of the rounds had gone through the air bottles in the back, so I ground looped in the middle of the airfield, and there was the airplane just dripping fuel and all the rest. It never caught fire. And that, without a question of a doubt, was the most interesting one in the war.
I take it then when I ask what your favorite aircraft is, you would say Mosquito.
Oh, without any reservation.
What were some of the characteristics of the aircraft, of the Mosquito, that you can remember?
Everything was good. I'm prejudiced beyond belief on it. And for instance, your 104 there, I flew its second last flight before it came in here. And I got it up to just about 1,600 miles an hour north of here. And I liked the 104, but not in this class. Not at all. With this airplane, it was quite forgiving, in my opinion. Now, other people thought otherwise on the Mosquito, but as far as I'm concerned, I went over 1,000 hours on it, and those are real hours because they didn't clock you until your wheels were on the way up, airborne, and when you touched the runway, they cut the clock off because that saved them money in replacing engines, etc., during the war. And that's so building up the hours wasn't easy. You couldn't count taxiing time, which is something. Yeah, that's not counting marks.
A typical briefing before a mission, so your navigator is off briefing and you're getting a briefing.
That wasn't in the night fighter side of the game at all. There was hardly anything. You were on readiness. You knew that when you were called, if you had a time, it was a specific time, and you just took off. And then the GCIs, the ground-controlled radar, would vector you where they wanted you to. And we were limited in the North Sea because of the secrecy of the equipment, or so they thought. We couldn't go past a certain thing, and we just went back and forth on patrol. Now, that's quite different if we were on intruding missions. There we were briefed on where we were to go and what to expect in the way of enemy activity and that sort of thing. But I didn't do a great number of those. Mine were nearly all night fighter, and so it was on readiness all the time.
We're now going to take a look at what happened to some of the Mosquitoes when they'd finished their wartime service in the UK. And this particular one is the de Havilland Mosquito FB Mark 6, and it was built at Standard Motors, and it was previously listed as a TE910 serial number, and it was delivered to number 127 maintenance unit on the 19th of November 1945. It was then ferried from the United Kingdom by an RAF and a Royal New Zealand Air Force crew to flown out to New Zealand on the 28th of April 1947. It was ferried to Woodburn for storage shortly after arrival, and then it was removed from storage and placed on strength with the number 75 squadron, and it was coded Yankee Charlie -Bravo. Again, then it was placed in storage at Woodburn on the 22nd of April 1952. It was declared surplus dated 30th of June 1955, and it was sold to GSB by GSB tender number to a Mr. J. Smith from Mucho Nelson. Total airframe hours at the time of disposal were 80.35. Although the aircraft was broken into parts for transport to Smith's farm, it was later reassembled and stored under cover after being treated with a preservative paint. John Smith's death on August the 19th, his family have lent the aircraft to the Aviation Heritage Centre Omaka for display. Disassembly commenced on the 15th of August 2020. It was wheeled out of the shed, the wing and undercarriage separated, and then it was trucked to Omaka in September 2020. Echo Golf -Delta and an original serial. The restored fuselage and wings were mated on the 24th of January 2021. Engines test run on stands and then refitted to the aircraft. Restoration undertaken under the leadership of Al Marshall, involving JEM Aviation and SAFE Air and volunteers in Bill Reed's hangar. The aircraft was installed in Omaka Aviation Heritage Centre on the 2nd of April 2021. Both engines were ground run on the 8th of November 2021, which you'll see in the up-and-coming film. Another Mosquito that John Smith acquired was built at Standard Motors and previously coded Tango Echo 881, and it was delivered sometime between the 27th of May 1945 and the 27th of December 1945. And it was ferried from the United Kingdom, again by an RAF and Royal New Zealand Air Force crew. It was ferried to Woodburn for storage, and shortly after arrival it was declared surplus on June the 30th, 1955, and it was then sold. Substantial parts of this aircraft were acquired by John Smith and stored at his Mapahu property. After his death in August 2019, during the clearing out of his collection, the remains of Tango Echo 881 were discovered and recovered. Recovered parts have gone to Avspecs at Ardmore to be used as spare patterns for future Mosquito restorations. Now, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Omaka Aviation Heritage Centre for the tremendous work that they're doing in keeping John Smith's Mosquito alive and running. I'll just keep quiet now and let you see the first engine runs of John Smith's Mosquito.
So when we come to
I'll
shut
keep
down,
quiet for now and really enjoy this most amazing event that took place.
yes. Okay. I've got to reach in the back here. There's two yellow knobs down by your ribs,
Yeah,
which is the slow running cutoff.
yeah.
So if you feel me reaching back there, you'll know why. When I bought this to fly a tiger moth, I never ever thought I'd be
No,
putting on a mosquito.
no.
to take a quick look at another Mosquito that found its way to New Zealand. This one was built at Hatfield and delivered to number 19 maintenance unit on the 19th of April 1945, and its RAF registration serial number was Papa Zulu 474. It served with number 80 operational training unit and number 132 operational training unit. It was ferried from the United Kingdom by an RAF and a Royal New Zealand Air Force crew, and it flew to Ohakea on the 5th of April 1948. It was then further taken to storage shortly after its arrival. It was declared surplus on SRR 4103 dated the 17th of July 1953 and sold to Aircraft Supplies Limited at Palmerston North. It then entered New Zealand's civil aircraft registration as Zulu Kilo Bravo Charlie Victor on the 2nd of September 1953. It was then ferried to the United States and entered the US Civil Aircraft Register as November 9909 Foxtrot with an insurance finance corporation in California. It was cancelled from the US Register in December 1970, and the remains were purchased in 1973 by a Mr. J. Merisine, who intended to restore it to static condition. It was then sold to Sweden Air Force Museum in 1984, but it remained in the United States. It was then purchased by Rod Lewis of Lewis Air Legends. Then it was moved to New Zealand for the restoration to a flying condition by the Mosquito Aircraft Restoration and Aspects Aramont at Ardmore on the 13th of January 2019. And there was a test flight from Ardmore, New Zealand by Steve Hinton and Warren Denholm. The aircraft is displayed in RAF 235 squadron colours. It then became Grand Champion World War II Golden Wrench Phoenix Award at the EAA Air Adventure in 2019. It was subsequently sold by Rod Lewis to Charlie Summers in June 2020. And the Mosquito remains based in Sacramento, California. I really hope you found the first part of my Mosquito story interesting, and in the next section we'll take on the other Mosquitoes, mainly the ones that flew around northern Canada post-war. I hope you can take the greatest of care. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Oh, and by the way, do ponder having a subscribe to my channel. It would be really much appreciated. I wish you all the very best. Take care. Cheers for now.